Hello, YouTube. I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to trickle in, and we'll get this party started and mark our triumphant return after a week off. All right. Well, so today we are going to talk about a few things. Most notably, we're going to spend some time talking about Ubuntu 22.04, which is Jammy Jellyfish, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Linux Mint Debian Edition 5, which was released this morning. So, before we jump into all that, let's start with some news items. Admittedly, some of these are left over from last week. I had planned to do the live stream last week, but unfortunately, I was having some allergy issues and I was not really feeling like going on. So, last week, I was going to go over the following news items. Arch Linux turned 20. Zorin OS 16.1 was released. There's a guide, and I can still throw this link in. There's a guide on OS Technics about installing Proxmox VE. Good morning, James. Welcome. I'll throw that in chat. elementaryOS is having some issues. You may have seen this in the tech news. There's infighting with the project leadership, and who knows how this will play out going forward. Apparently, the company has not been making much money, if any, to support the development. So that should be an interesting one to watch, how it plays out. New version of IP Fire, a Linux-based firewall, has been released. 2.27 Core 164. Which, if you're looking for an alternative that is not based on BSD Unix, then IP Fire is worth a look. Also, that past week, Apple had a major event, announced the Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra chip, which basically is two M1 Max chips fused together, and the system starts at $1,999 US. The big boy system starts at $4,000, $3,999. Let's see. There is an article on ByteXD, which is going over the Linux IP command and examples for that. We've got World Backup Day coming up on March 31st. So start planning now so you're not an April Fool. Don't lose your data. There's no time like the present to start planning and implementing a backup strategy and testing that backup strategy. If you don't test your backup strategy, you don't have a backup. All right. Getting into more recent things, Ubuntu, after 12 years, has updated its logo. Uh, Unfortunately, since the public images of that logo are not really available, I'm still using the old logo on my thumbnail for this video. So that will change once they've got their um, media pack, whatever they want to call it, available with the logos that are intended to be used for thumbnails, amongst other things. As already mentioned, Linux Mint Debian Edition 5 was released this morning. That's hot off the press from DistroWatch. And Laka for the Raspberry Pi was also released this morning, which incorporates the Libilec, and I believe it's got RetroArch installed as well. All right, so let's see if anybody else is trickling in. All right, James, it looks like it's just the two of us today. We are going to start with and install a fresh install of the daily version of Ubuntu 22.04. And so, since people have talked about this before, I'm giving this VM 2 gigs of RAM, 2 sockets, or 2 processors rather. Everything else is pretty much default. Yeah, there's not much to it. If you've seen me do one virtual machine in Proxmox, you can pretty much deduce how I'm going to do the rest of them. If this particular Proxmox box had more RAM, I'd definitely give this 4 gigs of RAM, but we're going to see how it runs in 2 just for grins. And when we shut it back down to reboot and do some things, then we can always up it to 4. You know what? What the hell? I'm just going to up it to 4 now. Okay. So, yeah, I've set this up basically to have a 40 gig disk, and everything else is bog standard. So we'll go ahead and get this started. In contrast to some earlier versions of the 22.04 Ubuntu, they do have the grub menu back now. So we've got the option for an OEM install, which we're not going to do this time. We're just going to go into the standard Ubuntu install. Good morning, Chris. Welcome. I'm not sure this is the final version of the new Ubuntu logo, or if it's the one that has the outer circles pushed in. But hey, All right, we've got 4 people watching. How's everybody doing this morning? I do have chat set up, so you've got to be a subscriber for at least 5 minutes before you can make comments. So if you're out there and you're watching, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so we've all seen this basic installer before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking through the details. We'll just push through this and get it installed as quick as possible. And then we can poke around. So this is the daily edition that was released yesterday. And now we're installing. So this is the first to have the new jellyfish background image on the desktop by default. And that's all good. Good morning, Tony. So Chris, I had hoped to join that demo call last week, but things at work prevented me from doing so. Sometimes I get called from my desk for crazy issues and to help patrons at the library, and makes it a little difficult unless a webinar falls on a work from home day to really put my full participation into it. So yeah, I'd hoped to jump into that, but didn't quite work out that way. Welcome, Joseph. Yeah, I know it's rare for me to miss a week. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I had some allergy issues going on last week, and some weird studio things happening, and I just made the executive decision to call it and take a week off and regroup. So I have been working on a reorganization of my office slash studio, trying to tame my mess of wires and get some things moved around to make them a little bit more conducive to doing more live streaming, doing more recording, and just being able to get at some things that I've had stashed away for a while and want to start using again. So let's see. I was tweaking my Plasma Latte layouts, including adding an on-demand sidebar for the budgie layout. Interesting. Added a few tweaks to the Garuda layout. Nice. Very nice. So, this during this past week, I did get a shipment, a nice little shipment from Wise. I upgraded myself from the let's bring this back up full screen, from the Wise smart band to the Wise watch, which for a big dude like me is much better on my wrist. I also got, you can probably see behind me, which I don't have completely mounted yet, but I also got a Wise LED strip. So I've been in the process of getting that mounted and playing with that a little bit. I admit that I got a little distracted with that last night and playing with the music feature of it and blasting a little Metallica, but hey, it's all good. You know what they say, when I listen to Metallica, so do the neighbors. Of course, I say the same thing about Black Sabbath, but that's a whole other story. Um, so, any big happenings with anybody in the audience today? Any new videos coming out from you, Tony, or anybody else that might be making videos? Uh, I've got I've got one video recorded. I did the initial recording session. I've just got to sit down probably this afternoon and get it edited. If the footage all turned out decent, it'll come out Tuesday more than likely. Um, I'm also working on a video that um, will basically build out a Pixie server and allow you to have multiple Linux ISO images on it to boot from over the network. And the third thing, I started a project and I need to circle back around to it. I started playing with, I don't know, a few weeks ago, um, a Cloud Init configuration in Proxmox, trying to build a customized template so that I can do faster deployment of a customized Ubuntu server in Proxmox. So that started out, hit a couple of bumps in the road. I backburnered it. I've been reading some more. I've been watching some other videos. And I think I'm ready to revisit that and potentially get the video footage recorded for it. So that's on the horizon as well. I also may, before I get the Pixie server, the dedicated Pixie server video out, I may circle around to Fog, which has an integrated Pixie server, and use that as a base for customizing that Pixie server to allow other ISO images, which kind of defeats the purpose of installing the whole Fog suite, but it's one step closer towards the goal, which for me is basically having some desktop Linux versions available over the network to install, as well as Rescuezilla, Clonezilla, and Redo Rescue. And of course, Memtest 86 or Memtest 86 Plus. So I've not been sitting idle. The wheels have been turning in my head, which I know is kind of a scary thought. But Yeah. So we are coming down. We are coming down the home stretch on this install. I got 2 vids recorded for the next 2 weeks. We'll probably do a live stream at the end of the month to show my network rack request of DJware tools. Ooh, fun. I'll be looking forward to that. All of it. All right. So, if you notice that I'm using StreamYard again this week, it's because I've got part of my setup tore down, and I didn't want to go 2 weeks without doing a live stream. So, the ATEM Mini Pro is unhooked at the moment, and that is mainly because I want to clean up cabling and do some cable management, although that seems like a losing battle most of the time, but I'm going to make an attempt. And I should have that all set up and ready to roll for next week's live stream. So I've done a few more unpublished test streams with the ATEM, and I'm feeling better about it overall. Still some things I'm playing with, some features I'm experimenting with. I kind of want to get some stills set up so that I can throw them up on screen in between topics. So that's one thing I'm working on. That will make it easier to trim the videos down and do some tweaks after the fact, which is something I want to try going forward. Let's see. If I install the Fira Sans fonts, that will be another step closer to making Endeavor OS look identical to Garuda. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, we've reached the reboot screen. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll pop out the DVD, or the ISO rather. And let's see. The first thing we're going to do after the little wizard is we're going to install the QEMU guest agent. And get that moving, and then we'll have to shut down and enable that, and we should be good to go. So it will be interesting to see how well that works. All right. Let's see. Found the flat pack of the latest Evolution. Works well with Office 365. So I have something of a decent Outlook replacement in Linux. Yeah, I actually had to set up Outlook for a coworker this week. Everybody else uses the Gmail interface, but she was really desiring Outhouse. And so, yeah, I spent probably 2 hours trying to go back through the settings on that and the little hoops you've got to jump through with Outlook 2016 to get it to play nice with Gmail based domain email. Yeah, so it was one of those things where I actually had to generate an application specific password. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to do apt install QEMU guest agent. And then we've got to shut down. Because we got to enable it on the Proxmox side. So to enable it on the Proxmox side, we come over to options and a QEMU guest agent and enable that. Type is virtio. What's the other option? Right. Okay. So then we can come back to the console and reboot. James, when I use a regular desktop client anymore, I use Thunderbird as well. I'm kind of split 50-50 between web interface and just using the Gmail client. Is it true that immutable distros are immune to security vulnerabilities found in the Linux kernel? That's a big claim. I wouldn't want to say yes with any degree of absolute certainty. There's always a way to exploit things. You just might have to work a little harder to do it. Okay, so first appearances, this doesn't look any different than what we had before, but if we go to display settings, it should have a few more options in the resolution box. I tend to like 1440 by 900. For VMs, so yeah. So interestingly enough, we've got an Ubuntu, or excuse me, a GNOME 42 release candidate version of files. And look at that. We've experienced an internal error already. uh, um, let's go ahead and send them a little issue. Do our part in the development cycle. The problem cannot be reported. Okay, well that's fine. So anyways, the weird thing about Ubuntu right now is that it's sort of in one of those transitional places where it's, I suppose, focused more on stability. It backports parts of things from newer versions of software. But overall, even the LTS versions, when they're released, they're sporting features that are 6 months old. Which, this is a double-edged sword. It's not as outdated as, like an Elma Linux or a what the old CentOS used to be. Doesn't run as far behind as that, but they seem to be putting a little bit more of a push on stability rather than going after the latest and greatest the way they did, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's it's one of those things. Fedora Silverblue installs all apps as Flatpaks. Yes. So that brings up another good point. So Flatpaks versus app images versus snaps, it's all been getting some buzz in the news surrounding Linux the last 2 weeks. DistroTube had a video out. There's a couple other people that I follow that have had videos out. Some saying, "Oh, Flatpaks are the future." Distributions are standardizing on them except Ubuntu. Some saying, "Oh no, you're trading one universal app packaging system from a big corporation for another universal app packaging system from a big corporation." Snaps being backed by Canonical, Flatpaks being backed by Red Hat, and basically putting out the idea we should all use app images, which I will admit some of the reservations I've had around app images have been getting addressed lately, such as having a somewhat more centralized place to get them from. There is still work that needs to be done in that regard, but yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, and I know that's a phrase I use way too much, but I'm cautiously optimistic that in the next year or two, this will get somewhat hashed out. Now, my feeling on snaps is that they were sort of shoehorned into being used for desktop applications. They were originally designed for more cloud and server based application distribution. So to me, let snaps focus on that core competency. Fine, I don't have a problem installing Nextcloud with a snap on a VPS. It works well for what it is. For desktop applications, however, I feel like the real competition is between Flatpaks and app images. And right now, from my testing, I would put Flatpaks in the lead. But I'm not counting out app images yet. The real question comes down to, at least in my mind, which of these is going to get third-party support and potentially bring support of commercial applications to the Linux desktop. And yes, before anybody gets all excited, I would love to have all my needs met by free and open source software. I have not thrown in the towel on that, but I am the first to admit that for my workflows, it's not there 100% yet. If Flatpaks or app images allow some of those gaps to be filled in the short term, I am for it. Okay, so let's address the chat a little bit here. I've been using Spark email client on my Mac and iOS devices. Works really well. There's a Windows client coming soon, according to their website. That's the one from the what were they? Former Google employees that they wanted to build out a client. Somebody in the chat knows on that. Let's see. And here I thought only furniture came in flat packs. Somebody's an IKEA fan. Let's see. I use both flat packs and snaps. App images being decentralized and harder to find. Yes, that is my issue with app images. Although there is, move my drink aside. There is appimagehub.com, which is the place that takes care of some of that issue. It would be frustrating if some of your favorite apps are not available as flat packs and cannot easily be installed on Silverblue. Yeah. Okay, so as far as the purple screen, I'm assuming you're using VirtualBox. Is that true, Catherine? I'm not entirely sure. I have not had just a blank purple screen. I wonder if it has to do with RAM or video memory for the VM. I normally give VMs at least 4 gigs of RAM and for a desktop version, and max out the video memory when I'm using VirtualBox. So I have not seen that specific issue. I suppose it could also be a bad ISO image. Um, so there's that possibility. Flatpaks and snaps usually have updated versions of applications before most repositories. Yes. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I've become more open to using the universal packages, because if your distribution is still on LibreOffice 7.1 or 7.2, or some of them are on even older versions, I like to be a little more cutting edge in my Office suite. So I will use a Flatpak or a Snap to install the latest version, and other apps as well. So it'd be funny to see Adobe Photoshop showing up as a Snap package. Well, that's just the thing. There are commercial development houses that have claimed over the years that the reason they don't put Linux versions out is because there's not a universal package method available across all systems. Well, they've got three choices now. I kind of see it something like Microsoft or Adobe going between Flatpak or Snap. I question whether one of those would actually choose app image, but it's possible. It's possible. App Image Hub is buggy. I just heard about it this week, so I haven't actually used it yet, but I wanted to make people aware that it is available. So that was my intent in bringing this up. So let's see. If I need a security hardened distro boot drive, I would install Fedora on a separate. Right. Hey, David, welcome to the party. Changing my oil and rotating my tires. Well, you want to come to Michigan and do mine next? I've got to do that this week, and I may be at the point where I'm going to be buying new tires. So, all right. So, I guess that covers. Oops, a little preview there. So we got the latest Ubuntu installed. And yeah, it's got the wonderful jellyfish on there. So I guess one of my questions is, have they sped up the App Store at all? Doesn't appear so. It would be nice if they had the, well, I guess that is a little faster. Looks like they've done a little bit of a facelift on it as well. So that's that. Okay, so on to the next piece of fun. And this one I had kind of done because of conversations that David and I have had in the past. And it happened to come up in my news feed. So This might be a little blast from the past for you, David. This is the Atari ST Emulator running EmuTOS, which is the open sourced clone, I guess. But I did download a couple of games, and while the mouse integration is not what I would like it to be, it was kind of fun playing Arkanoid yesterday. So this might take you back, David. um, so it was kind of fun. It was kind of fun playing with this. Um, the image is stretched, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. So I only downloaded the two Arkanoid um, the two Arkanoid disk images. I played a little bit with memory and processor reconfiguration on this, which is kind of interesting. But hey, it's all good. So Atari is available for Mac OS and Windows, and I believe there's a Linux version as well. This is the first I've really played with an ST emulator. Back in the day, I was an Amiga guy, so I feel a little dirty even doing this much, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll get over it. I'll get over it. um, you know, it's great to, it's great that we've got the capabilities of preserving the software and being able to continue to use these old systems for fun, even in emulation. So, um, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, there's some Atari goodness for everybody. Um, like I said, using a trackball these days, like I am, uh, makes this a little more difficult than it needs to be. I think I'd have to switch back and use a regular mouse to uh, be decent at this, but um, well, this is a little bit better than I was doing with the original version of Arkanoid, but hey. Um, anyways, we'll quit Atari. Let's see. All right. It is a little laggy. Um, but I think it's to do with the mapping of my USB mouse to the Atari mouse, um, and the fact that I'm using the emulation for the stock 8 megahertz 68,000 chip instead of something faster. Okay. So the next thing I've got on my list is Linux Mint Debian Edition 5. I know a couple of weeks ago we installed the beta version of this. So this is the release version. This was released this morning. And I got it installed. I've also got the QEMU guest agent enabled. I haven't installed the spice enhancements yet, which is something I want to play more around with. Just to allow some of the USB pass through to a VM, even from a remote machine. Just some interesting things you can do with spice. So, but yeah, this is Linux Mint at its finest, and we can do all the things you do in the regular Ubuntu based version of Linux Mint. Some things are a little bit different, but for instance, one of the big differences is the printer doesn't automatically detect like the Ubuntu based version. I'm not sure what sorcery that the people over at Canonical have been up to auto detect network printers, but it's not the end of the world to have to go through this. Shoot, in Windows or Mac OS, you still have to go through the little configuration to add a printer to your system. So yeah, this is something I will likely take a little bit deeper look at. I do want to go through some customizations. I think one of the other differences between this and the Ubuntu based version is in the install process, you don't get the option to do an OEM install like you do with the Ubuntu based version. Which isn't the end of the world, but if you want to keep a deployable image on a hard drive or if you want to keep it on your network and deploy it to machines that you might want to repurpose to give away or sell, then you're potentially better off with the Ubuntu based version or just a straight Ubuntu that would allow you to do an OEM install, clear off any personal information, but still do some customizations and updates before you put the machine in the hands of the other person. So that makes things interesting there. So this is using, for the file manager, this is using Nemo, which seems about right. Of course, this is a Cinnamon desktop, and default browser is going to, oops, that's not what I wanted. Default browser it's going to be some derivative of Firefox. It actually is Firefox. Curious to see what version it is. And this is version 98. So we're pretty updated for the moment. All right. Okay, so let me see what else I had on my list of topics. Oh, yes. I'll move back over here to this other screen. So I've been doing another project I've been working on this week, and seems like they're never-ending projects right now. Um, I've been working on consolidating files, old files, stuff even from my days in grad school. I've still got papers and things, electronic copies, and I'm trying to get all that stuff in one place so that I can do a more archival backup and um, get that backup off site. So I turned to two utilities. And this again is in part going back to my Amiga days, but the whole idea of dual pane file managers. And so the first one I installed was Midnight Commander because hey, it's open source, it's cross-platform, and through the power of homebrew, I can have Midnight Commander on the Mac. And as it says at the bottom of the screen, if you want to get a copy, it's midnight-commander.org. So that's all and good. But I wanted to take it to the next level because of a couple of quirks of Midnight Commander that I had not worked through in my haste to get this project done. So I started looking for graphical versions specifically for the Mac, and I came across Commander 1, which works pretty much the same way, although you get some mouse integration, so you can more easily select multiple files or folders and move between your different mounted locations, and just make this a little bit easier. As you can see, I'm a little bit of a pack rat of ISO images, but hey, it's all good. They're free. But what really prompted this was that a couple of weeks ago I made a video on DAF file, and I had this VM running quite well, and I was ripping CDs and I was running back and forth between my little office here and the extra catch-all room that was originally an extra bedroom. But I managed to just completely hose that DAF file VM. Lost all the rips of all the CDs that I had worked on, which totaled about 40 or 50 discs. So I decided, well, let's regroup on this. Let's go back and see what music I've already got digitally on the network. And it turned out I had more than what I had thought for. Believe it or not. So the I guess I don't have that mounted currently. The interesting thing that I found is that I had I had my music in 3 different formats. It was a combination of MP3, OGG Vorbis, and FLAC. And I kind of want to consolidate everything and get everything into FLAC for the additional quality that I get out of it, albeit at a larger file size. So that was kind of the catalyst that started this all happening. And I think this is what I want. And so, not multimedia. Let's try public. No. Okay, so that's not it. So somewhere on here, and I guess maybe I didn't plan on showing this part of things, but somewhere on here, one of my network drives, I've got maybe it's 122 and music. That should be it. So I've got kind of a mess here. I've got things that are misnamed and duplicates because some of it's in each of the different file formats. Some of the names of albums were misnamed because of whatever ripping software I was using before. And so, like, this is the proper way to do it. You have an artist, Frank Zappa, and then you have specific folders for the different albums. And then you have each song listed. So some of these are good and ready to go. Some of these I will be re-ripping into FLAC and deleting the OGG or MP3 version of them. But like Black Sabbath 13, I've got in FLAC already. And then I've got the MP3 version, which I can delete. And 13_1, which is FLAC, but it's not the full track listing. That is actually the bonus disc that I had to purchase separately. So I need to change how that's labeled. And yeah, some of this other stuff needs to be cleaned up a bit. So I've got a project ahead of me. I've got a project ahead of me. But so the part of the reason for doing this is that FLAC, or excuse me, DAFile has the option to use zero tier. And I actually had that working, had the DAFile server up long enough that I was able to test this one day. I was sitting at work, and on my phone I connected to zero tier and was streaming music from the DAFile VM I had going here at the apartment to where I was at work. And it actually worked pretty well. It's like, oh, can I get rid of my Pandora subscription now? It wouldn't break my heart to do that, save the $5 or $6 a month. So yeah, that's my use of dual pane file managers. My original exposure was to Directory Opus on the Amiga back in the 90s. Of course, on the PC, there was Norton Commander for DOS, and there's Free Commander, which I believe is still updated. Free Commander, which is free. Hey, think about that. Which gives you that same basic dual pane file manager, albeit in a XP or Windows 7 type of look and feel. So as far as Windows options, come on. So there are other options out there. I've not really used them that much. There's Double Commander, which is open source. There's Total Commander, which is a freemium proprietary version. There's, of course, Midnight Commander will run on Windows as well. Directory Opus exists for Windows. That's a paid program. They actually started off on the Amiga, and when Commodore went belly up, they migrated over to Windows and started putting versions out for Windows. There's another one, XY Plorer, Cuter. Looks like Multi Commander. And it looks like it's got some issues. Contains adware. So there are other alternatives out there. There's at least one or two additional alternatives on the Mac as well. And on Linux, there are other options too. So if we look specifically at Linux versions, Double Commander is available on Linux, which doesn't look bad. The big thing is what's down at the bottom. You get your function keys to be used for copying or moving files without having to reach for the mouse and drag things from one side to the other. And for what I was doing this week, it drastically simplified my workflow. And so, yeah, I am going to be keeping some sort of dual pane file manager around on all systems going forward, just because of how much easier it has made some processes this week. Okay. Let's see what I missed in chat. Let's see. Don't need to put all these up. Let's see. Lots of stuff back and forth between people, which is great. I've been very much encouraging people to join the live streams, even just to participate in chat, because I know there are very knowledgeable people that hang out in my chat every week. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. All right. I think we're good on that. Are there any questions, comments, suggestions at this point? I think most of the conversation going on in the chat is between people in the chat and not things that I need to put up on screen. So I am going to leave that alone. So that is, I guess that brings us to a good spot today. What is your daily driver distro? Um, Honestly, lately I spend most of my time in Proxmox VE. As far as a desktop distribution, um, usually it's one of the Ubuntu variants. I'm a big fan of Pop OS. Um, I kind of want to back up that Ryzen machine and install Pop OS directly on it, just to see how it'll perform. Um, Instead of having Windows on it. The more I use Windows 11, the more I loathe Windows 11. Um, yeah, I'm not sold on that idea. I've I've had I've had that company in Hong Kong badgering me this past week. Two different people from that company have been requesting I do videos. Um, and one of them was for a product that is Windows only. And I sent a pretty strongly worded response back the second time I responded, because they sent the same email twice to me, and I responded to the first one and said no, and the second one I said no, and reiterated that the reason why is because my channel is more focused on Linux, and covering products that are Windows only uh, just doesn't make sense to the direction I'm taking this channel. Now, I'm not opposed to covering a Windows utility from time to time, or you know, some things, but I'm not going to let a company um, badger me into doing something that I am not feeling. So, if I had to choose a desktop distro to run all the time, it would likely be Pop OS. How would you install Linux 5.15 and Linux Mint Debian Edition 5? I'm sure there are multiple ways to do that. I tend not to get too involved in doing kernel changes on my desktop distributions until such time they appear in the updates. Um, that was something I did quite a bit in the latter part of the 90s and up to about 2002. I spent way more time than I'd care to admit recompiling kernels and adding drivers and doing all that kind of baloney. And I always felt like I was just chasing my tail and not getting any other real work done. So I'm sure there are tutorials out there, Joseph, but that's beyond what I'm likely to cover. Tony, I've not got the router in the mail yet, but I am going to do that the first part of this week if everything goes well. I've put my fingers on it and just need to get it taped up and get a label on it and get to the post office. Pop! OS is my workstation daily driver and SUSE for production. Very nice. I've only tinkered with Windows 11. Yeah, so my reason for even having a machine with Windows 11 on it right now is because excuse me. Sorry to keep everybody in suspense. Basically, at my day job at the library, the technology is in such a state, shall we say, that I basically got to replace almost every machine in the building in order to keep things going after 2025. And if anybody's familiar with the way budgets at a library work, it's not big. So part of the computers I'm going to be replacing with grant money if I can win a grant. Otherwise, I'm spreading over 3 years the replacement of 17 computers, 16, 17 computers. And that is going to drastically eat into what other technology related things I can do over the next 3 years. But due to some software decisions that were made before I took over, switching to Linux on our public machines is not an option at this current point in time. As much as I would love for it to be, the only way I could even potentially make it work would be to get some sort of VDI infrastructure in place, and I don't have the server equipment to do that, nor do I have a server room in which to put an additional server. So, yeah, it's an interesting environment. Let's just say that. Let's see. As your channel grows, so will the emails from vendors looking for free advertisement of their products. Most of the time, it's crap stuff. I delete 99% of those emails. Yep. I'm very close to just blocking all the emails coming from this particular company and drawing a line in the sand. It's contrary to where I want to go with the channel, and yeah, to thine own self be true is a mantra that I'm trying to stick with. I resorted to that philosophy as well. Yep. Love Pop OS desktop environment, have it running in a VM. Very nice. Same as budgets in a public school system. Haha, you have to beg for funds to upgrade gear to still be behind the edge. Yes. You feel my pain, Tony. You feel my pain. Um, it's I'm trying to do the best I can with the budget I'm given. Um, and had I known the requirements for Windows 11 a year earlier, I know, wishful thinking, probably would not have gone down the road that we went with our public printing system that our vendor pitched to us and then didn't deliver on the full capabilities that we were supposed to be able to utilize. Printing has very much become the bane of my existence in my day job. And yeah, it's kind of a Charlie Foxtrot a lot of days. Let's see. Work for a New York State agency that wastes a lot of money on everything except salary, especially crazy new technology. Yeah. Installed Chrome OS Flex and VMware Player 16. So I had thought about that, Catherine. I'm aware of Chrome OS Flex. I've played with it a little bit. Due to the printing software that's in place, which basically makes the staff release print jobs to the printer. And of course, it's proprietary and locked to Windows only. That takes a lot of options out of the running. So it is what it is. So, but that being said, the machines that we've got now for the public, they are Intel i3 6000 series, six something. So they would make good Chrome OS Flex machines. The problem is I don't have room to put more machines out for the public. Otherwise, there would be some Linux machines out and available. The only Linux machine I've got out for public use is a machine I set up with Porteous Kiosk for the catalog machine. And for that use, it was perfect. Runs on older hardware. We spent $40 on a Wi-Fi card for that machine. Yeah, it does what it needs to do. It's very low resource. It's pretty locked down. I've got to do a little bit more tweaking to it, but it's pretty locked down and perfect use for Porteous Kiosk. But if I had room to put more computers out, I would definitely do some Chrome OS Flex machines. I totally feel your pain. I had to prepare the technology budgets for my employer. Totally feel your pain. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's not gonna be a fun couple of years replacing computers. Began testing Windows 11 at work. Create a group policy object to not allow it yet. May start rolling it out in a month. Use Porteous for training laptops. Excellent product. Yeah, I'm very impressed with it. Um, for what we needed for the catalog machine, because it only has to load two different websites. Everything else I've got pretty much blacklisted, but it loads our catalog website and the Michigan e-library site, and that's it. That's you know, after 5 minutes of inactivity, the machine reboots itself. It just sits and hums along in the back of the library. um, if we're able to get our grant money and other funding available to do the building renovation, we will be able to have more computers, and some of this stuff will work itself out. But the way this is all projected to happen, it's going to be after the cutoff for Windows 10 for support, and so I've got to be prepared to keep the computers running, even if we don't get to do the renovation in the next few years. If it's more like 6 years out, then I absolutely have to replace the computers at least once. So, and it even with products like Phoronix Deep Freeze installed on our public machines, I'm a little overzealous about keeping updates in place, and I really don't like the reputation that a lot of places that offer public machines have got, that the public machines are very outdated and lacking patches and all of the things. I try to stay on top of it as much as I can, and other than two problem machines that I cannot get Windows to upgrade, um, everything is on the latest patch level of Windows 10. So, um, we'll see what happens. I'm very much looking at the B-Link and Minis Forum mini PCs as a way to keep costs down and to reduce space usage for each machine. That we've got out for the public currently. And we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that that's going to be a solid move going forward. And in all honesty, I can't get Dell or HP machines any cheaper. So, excuse me. All right. Let's see. Totally non-related comment or non-tech related comment. I like the blue painted wall behind you. Is that a recent change? Nope, that's my office. So three walls are that blue color, and then oops, and then my fourth wall is sort of a darker blue accent wall. And now I've thrown that off. Oh well. That was a color scheme that I came up with last oh shoot 4 or 5 years ago. Last time this room was remodeled and painted. TP-Link N300 PCIe Wi-Fi card can work in Windows and Linux. Slower card, but very stable. So, Catherine, actually, what I've been recommending for Wi-Fi cards for Linux and it's I think I showed one of them on the stream or in a recorded video a while ago. But basically, it's an Intel laptop wireless card on a carrier board that slots into a PCI Express slot, and then it has the antenna leads connected for external antennas. So the one we got was, I think it was AC Wi-Fi. Which all our stuff in the library is AC anyways, so but these cards are a little more generic. They use the let's see. Of course, I'm not putting my fingers on one. They use the Intel, maybe they were AX, maybe they were Wi-Fi 6. Intel AX200. This one here is the AX210. The AX200 chipset is very well supported under Linux out of the box without having to install drivers. So, of course, I'm not able to put my fingers right on the card that I've ordered myself before. So, but basically it resembles this. You have basically a carrier card, and you put in a laptop Wi-Fi card, and it gives you the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi with external antennas. This isn't the particular one that I bought, but it's not seeming to come up in my search history or a quick search here today. But anyways, and a lot of these cards, you know, like this thing here, a lot of these cards, they just throw big fat heat sinks over top of the laptop chip, Wi-Fi chip, or board, whatever you want to call it, and with their, you know, little nondescript name on it, and we'll sell them too. Now, the interesting thing that I found with looking at these, one Wi-Fi adapter for PC is powered by Wi-Fi 6 AX200, which is the Intel chipset. And yet they list it up here as Windows 10 for the operating system. And then down here, some of them list that it's not compatible with Linux when that chipset actually is. So yeah, all their branding on their graphs and things just show Windows, but these are compatible with Linux. The driver is in the kernel. So if we look at the questions. Works well with Linux, weird with works well with Windows, weird with Linux. So yeah, there are people out there that leave reviews that don't know what they're talking about, or they don't leave enough information to even troubleshoot. Just saying Ubuntu LTS is not descriptive enough. So on that note, I think I'll start wrapping this up. Let's see. I like Intel for Wi-Fi chipsets. um, 80 AC 9260 Intel for Wi-Fi, slotted into the 2230 slot on the motherboard with antenna. Nice. Yeah, which LTS version? Exactly the point. And you know it's one of those things where even people that leave comments on my videos, they will do the same thing. And you know I sometimes tire of doing long responses to basically say I need more information. But I try to give specific examples of the information I need to try to help people what I can with the time I've got. You're very welcome, Tony. Thank you for all of your support in all the ways and for showing up here today. If nobody has any additional questions, oh, and if people see it back right there, that's what I've got left to hang of my new LED strip. So that's kind of a fun little project. They change colors and all kinds of fun things you can do with them. So yeah, we'll get that hung up and hopefully get the other camera position so that people will actually see them a little bit by the next video. So, all right. On that note, I will let everybody go. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. At least here in Michigan, it's going to be in the 50s, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I'm hoping to even get out for a walk or go do something with my eldest niece and see where the day goes. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next week.